Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Open Heart Discussions. I'm Lacey Fisher, the owner of Open Heart Counseling ATX in Austin, Texas. And I'm so happy to have Lexi Losch here. She was my intern. I'm going to say that right at the beginning. She was my intern, and she was just such a great intern, or what we will soon be calling LPC associates, to have. I've been amazed at, her growth. I think she already knew so many things. I think she just, it was something that all LPCs have to go through, but I still have seen so much growth in her. I'm just so proud of what she's done. So I invited her to this conversation today so we can learn more about her and her work, because I think it's very important. So Lexi, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your credentials and your professional journey.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I received, well, this is actually my second career. So counseling is my second career. I got my master's in higher education in 2006. And so I worked in higher ed up until I started school for counseling. But what ended up happening is I really enjoyed advising students, and I got frustrated that I couldn't take them any farther. So I went back to school a couple of years ago. I got my upgraded licensure in September of this year. So thank you, Lacey, for all of your wonderful supervision. So I've been working with clients, tend to do more family of origin work, attachment work, specializing in the spectrum of all reproductive mental health. So that could be birth trauma, neonatal death, miscarriage, NICU trauma, and general PTSD, not just as it relates to the reproductive spectrum, but also general PTSD. So those are pretty much the clients that I work with. The journey story can be very long. So depends on how much you want to know about how I ended up where I ended up. So
Well, I mean, that's like what you're talking about is working with all that trauma and neonatal loss. I mean, wow, those are such hard topics to talk about, for anyone to talk about and to work with. I'm so happy that there are people like you able to do that. And I want to know, though, is there any part of all those things you just described to us that you do that you feel you're more passionate about in your role as a therapist? Yeah. So go ahead, tell us about it.
So I am probably most passionate about reproductive mental health, that whole spectrum of perinatal mental health. So I guess this is an addition really to the journey story. Um, Working with students in higher ed it was wonderful. I loved it. And then I just got frustrated that I couldn't take those students much farther, especially those where I was doing non-academic advising with. I felt like I wanted to take them farther in understanding themselves and understanding their journey just within school and learning about their identities within school. And so that's when I went back to school. But before that, in 2010, I had my first child. I had my daughter. Um, and so I would say maybe around that time, 2011, was when I fell in love with this idea of maternal mental health, because I myself have experienced postpartum depression and anxiety. And I have 3 kids now, and I've experienced it with all of my children. Um, and so with my daughter, I ended up going to my own counseling for that. And we lived in Boston at the time. And I was able to bring my baby to sessions because access and being able to not have to find a babysitter, especially when I didn't have family up there. But it was so life-changing, just an understanding, or trying to understand that I was actually worth feeling good and I mattered and that I could have a journey towards healing. Um, she helped me see that even in those sessions. And so when I moved here to Texas, I started to continue my own therapeutic work because I felt like it's like taking a vitamin, right? Like you have to do it on a daily basis. You have to continue to do the work to feel better and to find your own worth. So that really helped me kind of solidify my own identity as a mother and wanting to help other mothers find that same healing.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's really hard for a lot of people to talk about, and it's making better improvements with people being able to discuss those things. But I know it's still something that a lot of people carry with them. They carry it alone.
Mhm.
But can you tell us that, you know, what are some topics within that you feel aren't discussed, are not talked about, that need to be talked about more?
All of them, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of the topics. One that I think seems to be getting a little more attention is like paternal depression. And so just understanding too that, one of the greatest predictors of a papa getting a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder is mama having a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. So it's very likely that my husband was also maybe suffering from some anxiety and I never knew it. Um, so that I think that's just as important because when mama and papa are feeling good, or mama and mama, papa and papa are feeling good, baby is feeling good too. So I think that's an important topic. And then as we break that down even further, Black maternal and paternal mental health, just as an entire genre, and how we also consider even the determinants of health. So do you have access to healthcare? Do you have access to transportation? So it's you dismiss those other factors that are so important to overall health and mental health. So if mama's not going or can't go to all of her visits, doesn't have access to all of her, let's say, OBGYN visits or her follow-up visits, she doesn't have access to someone that might notice changes in mood, might be able to ask her those questions of how she's adjusting. And so I feel like those are some of the topics we need to be paying more attention to as it relates to the whole reproductive spectrum, um, including neonatal death, including miscarriage, because those are disenfranchised grief. So we don't touch it. We tend to not want to touch it because we're so uncomfortable with the idea of death. That's one of our greatest existential crises, right? Is talking about death or understanding what it means for us, so let alone the death of a child or the death of an unborn baby. And so we need to be talking about that more. We need to bring those topics to light. We need to be open and honest about how we're feeling about it.
Yes, I agree. It's something that people really shy away from. But what about the people who are experiencing it and really need someone to talk to about it? That they don't feel that they're being told, no, keep that to yourself because this is too much. Um, is that something that you can expand on too, maybe with that or some of the other topics that you discussed, is why mental health is so important for this group? You did explain, maternal health, Black maternal mental health, paternal mental health, but can you go further into that about why it's so important?
Yeah, I think it came to light really for me. I feel like it should have come to light sooner, but it really came to light. I attended a conference maybe about a year and a half ago. It was the National Perinatal Association conference, and there was an OBGYN there who spoke, and she said one quote, or it's her quote, and she said, in our current system of care, right? Like if we were to consider mama and baby as like a piece of candy that's in a wrapper. So the baby is the candy and mom is the wrapper. And she went on to say that once the candy is out of the wrapper is cast aside. And that that struck me so hard. I mean, I quoted her on Twitter. I think she's great, by the way. Um, it it made me think about my own maternal journey, and how often we are so quick once that baby is born to say, how's the baby doing? Are they gaining weight? Are they eating enough? Oh, let me see pictures. Can I come over and hold the baby? And mom is there uh, in her pajamas. She looks like she hasn't showered in days. She probably hasn't eaten a meal, or she's attached to a pump, or maybe mama's in the NICU and going to the NICU every day. But we're so focused on the baby and how quickly we just don't pay attention to what mama might be needing, which is also another reason too that I am actually a postpartum doula. I haven't had a family in a while due to COVID, so I haven't been in the homes. But that fourth trimester care, man, it's just, I wish we really paid more attention to it. because we just chalk mood changes up to like, that's normal. What you're experiencing is normal. Wait, just try and get more. Nap when the baby's napping, right? Like how many times we heard nap, right? Nap when the baby's napping. That got on my nerves so much because I'm like, my babies don't sleep. They don't take naps. I can't put my baby down because they'll wake up. So when would you like me to nap? I was even told by family that babies cry. You'll get used to it. And that was told to me when I had my daughter, when I was like spiraling. And I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't know it had a name yet. I just knew I didn't feel good. I knew I didn't even want to be a mother at that point. And so to be told, babies cry, like you'll get used to it. It's fine. And no one ever checked in on me to see how I was doing. Man, like that's why these conversations, that's why talking about maternal and paternal mental health, perinatal mental health is just so incredibly important because we can watch parents in front of us falling apart and we don't do anything about it. We just say, that's normal. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's bringing up so much for me. I'm thinking like, how many times have I heard, a mom say, I just feel like the vessel that created the baby and birthed it, and then that was it. And one thing I'm thinking too is that this is a specialization. Thank you for doing the specialized work that you do, attending the trainings that you do, because there are some some people, some therapists that could be harmful by not knowing all of these things, and that making someone say, okay, I am crazy, I shouldn't be doing this, and they would need a different type of help. But thank you for your courage to say that. You made a comment and you said, I don't know that I want to be a mom right now. That is such a hard thing for even moms in my therapy, right, to say. And I just, wow, thank you for being so upfront and real about it.
Yeah, I've even found too that sometimes saying that with clients, I don't think this work always needs to be as boundaried as we expect it to be. But when they know that you're also a parent and you can validate, even sometimes saying like, I know that feeling without having to say more than that, but just to say like, I know exactly what that feels like. That can just be, I don't, not gonna lie, I just got an Instant Pot, so I'm really excited about the Instant Pot. But when you press the quick release, right, and all the steam comes out, I'm still fascinated by that. But that's what it feels like. Those are those moments, right, when you're working with a client where you say that and it's that like quick pressurized release, and you're like, oh my God.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh,
I
so
can really feel that
yes,
as you're
yeah,
talking about it.
yeah.
So, how does your work impact folks that are BIPOC?
Um,
Go ahead.
no, yeah. So what I've seen, and I think too what I have experienced, is that Black mamas are assumed to be able to tolerate a higher threshold of pain. Um, so we're cast aside. We should be able to handle it all. We should be strong, right? So let's go back to the strong Black woman stereotype. We can continue carrying our family. And so that could also be multiple generations. I know I've lived in a house before with multiple generations in the house, but we have to carry it all, including the healing. We don't even talk about the physical healing. We expect mamas to be healed and ready to go back to work after 3 months, which is also absurd. That's another reason we need to keep having these conversations. And so with my Black, Indigenous, people of color, Latinas, like I can sit with those mamas and hear something like when I ask them how they're feeling, or they can say like, man, it got me feeling some type of way. And I know what that means.
Mhm.
I don't have to sit there and dive deep into like, can you tell me more about it got me feeling some type of way. Like I know that language. And we will get to that point of like, okay, we need to identify what that means internally, but I can validate that. I can reflect on that. And I don't cast that aside as something meaningless. I don't make assumptions that my client is being resistant. I can sit with that and I understand what that means. I approach them with kindness. I share more about myself, which I've noticed many cultures of color, like we're used to communal healing.
Yeah.
So we're used to the art of storytelling. I'm a big fan of storytelling. And so there are parts of my story with boundaries, and I mentioned before, that have helped just validate their experiences. And it's that, again, that quick pressure release. They take that deep breath and they sit back and their shoulders, you can watch like the shoulders, less tension, and you just see them take a breath. I also know what it's like to experience microaggressions as a Black woman, as a Black mother. You know, I've been asked before if I was the nanny to my children, to my own children. So I know what it feels like to just hear certain comments or for people to assume certain things about you. And so I feel like I can deeply empathize and help validate what they're going through.
Wow. Um, I know that that's so much for you to carry, and you recognize how much that is for other mamas of color to carry. And again, I can't say this enough. Thank you for sharing those parts of yourself. I hope that when people watch this, other people see it, that even if it's just one other person, that they're like, yes, that's it, that clicks, that makes sense for me. And I want to be able to, one, reach out for perinatal mental health counselor, and two, if that person needs to reach out to a therapist that is BIPOC, that they're able to do that, knowing that there are therapists of color out there that get and understand and can work with them. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything that you want other professionals in your field to know? Like if you had this moment right now to give them a message, what would that be?
I want them to know, or I want them to approach their clients with a genuine curiosity, not just the intake paperwork, but really getting to know who your clients are. That's how you build trust. And especially in the BIPOC community, you've got to build trust. There's already this general distrust of all healthcare, and rightfully so. We have a right to distrust healthcare. Um, and really ask them what their hopes are, what they have envisioned, what therapy has been like, or what could it look like. So listen to understand. You know, if you decide you want to specialize in reproductive mental health, you don't have to be a parent to work in this field. So don't make assumptions as well that the client has certain access to maybe freedoms you have if you're not a parent that works in this field. So making assumptions is going to be a huge thing to not do, please. Be open too. If you can be open, not lax, but open in little things like accepting babies in a session, right? So that was one of my experiences with my clients. I tell them to bring babies to session when we were in person if they needed to. Um, they're not a distraction. It depends, you know, when we're doing EMDR, we probably don't always want baby in the room. But for the most part, like if you can't find childcare and this is the only way you can talk to someone that might be able to help you sort through your feelings, be open to potentially having a baby in the session. And really make an effort to understand culture, because there's so many of us out here that call ourselves culturally competent, and we are far from culturally competent. It's ongoing work for all of us.
Yes.
You can be doing great harm to people of color because you're diagnosing something that is absolutely culturally relevant or appropriate. So please understand culture as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And then bringing the babies to session, yeah, if that's necessary and needed, that is also a great way to look at how a parent, say it's a mom or a dad that you're working with, to see how they're interacting. I loved it when I was in person as well, that if mom, you could tell she was trying to hush the baby and she'd been doing this for hour after hour after hour for months, that I can say, I want to hold me a baby right now. So if you want to hand over your baby, please do so. I would enjoy it. And just give her a little moment.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I even remember that not just with therapists, but from other healthcare professionals. When we lived in Boston, my daughter's pediatrician, we went for a visit and they could see I was going through it. And they were like, can we help? Why don't we take her? You like go to the bathroom, splash some water on your face, go have a lollipop. Like, we're good. And I mean, how often do we see that? Most doctors are like, you have a 15-minute appointment and I got to go to the next one. But they were just so kind and gave me that space. And so I used to love going to the pediatrician appointments.
Right.
Like, you're going to take care of me. This is great. Like, you're taking care of the baby and me. And I like this.
Get that lollipop too, just like
Right. Like,
when they're there.
yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. So.
On the flip side, what would you want clients to know, potential clients or other clients that are working with other therapists? What do you want them to know?
I know for myself, and I hear this from many therapists, that I feel blessed to be able to do this work. I love my job. I appreciate all of my clients, and most therapists do. They love what they do as well, and it hopefully should show. If it does not, that might be time to find a new therapist. You have every right to do so. Um, my clients, they trust me to come weekly to laugh and cry. Sometimes my clients need to sit on the floor because they're just having a hard week, and I'll sit on the floor with them. So find a therapist, if I'm not your therapist, to meet you where you are. Find one that is comfortable with being uncomfortable. And for myself to find one that actually like jives with you. So my clients know when they come to session that they can expect some type of pop culture reference. I'm a huge geek. I'm a Star Wars fan, Harry Potter. They know I'm going to talk about The Office or Parks and Rec. They know I'm probably going to talk about comic books. And so we use that though as a way to reflect, like, this could be what you're experiencing. What does that feel like? And they're like, oh my God, this is exactly like that point in the movie where X, Y, and Z happen. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. So sometimes
Yes.
it's easier to connect with something that's a little more external to get them talking. So find yourself a therapist that meets what you need.
Yeah. Especially with you, when you think about the clients that you and I are seeing, where there is so much hard stuff going on.
Mhm.
Find you a therapist that you're able to laugh with. There are moments, of course, not laughing at things that are not appropriate for you at that time, but to have those moments of that relief, just to say, yes, my therapist can just, kind of sit back and relax with me too.
Yeah.
And let me be where I am. You said it beautifully, just of finding a therapist that can meet you where you are.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you have any resources that you would recommend for those needing something outside of therapy or any?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends too if clients are local. If you're local here in the like Central Texas, Austin area, um, Black Mamas ATX is a wonderful resource. They also run sister circles. So if you're looking to connect with other mamas, that's a great way to do it. If you're pregnant and looking for resources, Mama Sana Vibrant Woman is a great resource. If you're a NICU mama and have experienced a NICU stay, if you're currently in the NICU and you're looking for peer support, Hand to Hold is also a great resource. If you're looking for a book, I highly recommend it. It's a quick book too, but it's so impactful and it will give you so much information about what it's like to be a Black mother in America. A Black Mother Dying by Angela Pye. Like I said, short book, but if you really want to get to know what it's like for a Black mother in the healthcare system, she talks about her experience beautifully. Um, there's also a couple apps. I think it's Shine. I'm registered for Shine. And it gives you these little prompts, and they're also BIPOC made and owned. So I appreciate that one. I think the other one might be Oak, but you can email me if I got that one wrong. So yeah, those are some quick resources.
Okay, great. Um, how do people get in contact with you? Say someone just really is like, yes, Lexi is the person I want to reach out to. How do they how do they contact you?
I would say email is probably the best. Even a text message is okay. Sometimes I'm quicker to reply to text. I think many of us are these days. But you can email me at Lexi at lexilosch.com. And my information, I think, is actually still on Lacey's website if you'd like to get in touch with me. And you can leave me a message at 512-522-6232 and let me know what you need.
Yes, under my website, Lexi is still there. I haven't wanted to take her off yet. I do have that. She is fully licensed, independent, doing her own work, and that is great. And you just have so much experience. And a lot of these organizations that you've talked about, and some I know that you haven't mentioned, that you work for a lot of people. You have your and everything, and that is wonderful. I know it's a lot for you, but you really have a wealth of knowledge and experience that is so incredible. And I think so many people are lucky to have you as their therapist. And I hope that, some can reach out to you, and even people who are watching just want to contact Lexi to talk about some things. Would it be okay if they do that? Just to say, hey, I want to, okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say that we haven't talked about and we haven't gone over?
Everybody needs therapy. Honestly, I am a huge fan of it. It doesn't matter. Even if you think you have nothing to talk about, you probably do. Like I said before, for me, going to therapy it's like a daily vitamin, something that it makes my life so much better. It makes me more reflective of myself. Even if you're not experiencing active trauma, like, just try therapy. Talk about your life, talk about relationships, talk about how you approach relationships. Everybody could use therapy. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource.
Yeah. You said that just everyone needs therapy. And in my mind, knowing you, I just wanted to get out the air horn and go, baby.
Right. I mean, I do.
That's all that needs to be said.
You have it on my phone. We add that air horn. Which I'm not gonna lie, I've used in session. It has made some clients laugh.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. And that's
but
what we're talking about.
exactly.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today and being able to share all that you have and inform us, giving us the insight that you have. Yeah, that's it. So
Thanks for having me, Lucy.
yes, absolutely. It was good to see you. You have a wonderful holiday season.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.